Welcome in, you guys, to our Sunday strength. Thanks for joining me, and hope you're enjoying your Sunday or whatever day you are watching this recording. So today I want to discuss one of these um, scenarios in our relationships that are mm, just ruining our relationships. The idea of resentment, and I think the reason that it's such a relationship ruiner is because of the sneakiness that kind of happens for it just to kind of creep up on us, right? Where you are pushing forward in the relationship, and just like any other scenario that is in life that is worth having, there's a lot of different things that go on in that scenario. And so the difficulty in a relationship, from day to day interactions to future plans to I thought what I had isn't what I have. All those concepts are within the relationship, and you're trying to do it now, and you're trying to do it with an imperfect person, and then plus all the things that you've dealt with in life. And so, yeah, next thing you know, you're just feeling super resentful. How does that happen? Um, what does it mean for our relationship? And I want to kind of go down the list of how to fix it. And I think as we go down the list of how to fix it, then it's going to help us a little bit, to know how it happens as well. So let me give you four things that will hopefully change the tone in your personal experience, but also I think will help you to help your relationship out as well. So before I get into those things, a common scenario, if this is your first time ever watching me, a common scenario that I describe as being useful is that um, you don't point fingers at somebody else to get the changes that you need done in your relationship. And so if you're going to be effective, you have to only point fingers at yourself, um, because that's the way that we change. I mean, if you think about when you go to try to, when somebody wants you to change, unless you're already in a place where you're saying, yeah, okay, I need to, them coming at you swinging is not going to make you want to hug them or hold them or even do the change. You're going to probably try to protect yourself, or you're going to swing back. And when we get in those scenarios, change is not something that happens. So, what we have to do in our relationship is look inside out first. We have to be willing to go to a place where we say, look, I'm going to get better. If resentment is something I'm feeling, I'm not going to wait for my partner to develop a different way of being before I get rid of my resentment. I'm going to do the best that I can do to rid of that. Or if I can see that my partner is resentful, I'm not going to wait for them to get better before I start doing things in a relationship that will help give a platform for us to be better in our relationship. And so I think that's the first caveat that's important. Um, but let's get into some of the things that you can do. I ultimately resentment to me is something that gets built out of us not dealing with our anger in an effective way. And so one of the things that happens is we don't forgive, either fully or quickly enough. So being able to say like, okay, I let that situation go, but holding on to it, in your back pocket for the next opportunity, or for you to be able to even replay in three situations later that, hey, you know what? Well, this is the third time that you've done that. Says that you haven't fully forgiven, and definitely not quickly. And so we have to get to a point where we want to try to resolve, for ourselves individually, how we're thinking about those situations instead of allowing it just to kind of fester in us and really build into ultimately resentment, because resentment, has a lot to do with that unexpressed anger piece. And so, where do you express that anger out? It's not always with your partner. There's a lot of work that needs to, and I think this is the useful part of counseling a lot of times, is there's a lot of work that sometimes goes in between, if you're ready to present to your partner an interaction that helps, with whatever conflict that you have, um, and gives you a chance to really kind of get to a point where you can say, okay, look, this is how I'm feeling, and I can still make it productive, versus this is how I'm feeling, and you're not who you need to be, and that's why we have problems. So that would just actually make the relationship go the opposite way of what we want it to go. And so one of the useful things of us being able to have conversations is that you are able to sort some things out first, and be able to say, okay, this is actually mine. I need to work on this. And it's not that you can't take what you brought to a counselor into your relationship and share it, but I think it's more useful once you kind of process and looked at it. And so being able to do that quickly, and get through the idea that your partner is the problem, is huge. And so, what's a way to be able to help us do that? Well, one of the ways that I'll give you to be able to fully forgive is how you see things is a big deal, because how you see things creates how you're feeling about things. So, if there's anything that you can make an adjustment on, I would say be able to see things differently. A lot of scenarios in relationships, even though they happened to you or somebody did something or said something to you, a lot of times you can look at the scenario and say, look, that wasn't even about me. That was how they were feeling. That was their work to do. And if we could put that perspective or that lens on it, then it helps us to be able to really kind of flip things and not have to have a battle against our partner. And there's a lot of work to do around that, but I think that's a good starting point for us to just be willing to say, look, I don't need to be the one to hold somebody else accountable. I could actually be the one that says, I understand that we make mistakes, and I need to be able to forgive. A sneaky way that I think we get better at forgiveness is us being able to forgive ourselves ultimately. So look at the things that you've done in your life and see how you've treated yourself after you've done the hard things, and what is your process for being able to forgive you. Okay, and so forgive quickly and fully. I think that's the first idea. Communicate lovingly and honestly. And I so many times, like our resentment, our hurt, our harshness, um, those things are what we communicate with, versus the idea that, look, the reason those things hurt and the reason why we feel harsh is because it's somebody that we cared about, and somebody that we do care about, and we want to be in a better situation, and that situation isn't happening. And so that's the reason that we feel hurt. Well, can we communicate from the initial place, which is that place of love and that place where you're wanting to actually um, be in partnership and in agreement with that person? And so you're forgetting the bigger picture, zooming into the smallest of portion of your life, and then you get frustrated about that, or irritated, or sometimes hurt, and ultimately building resentment because of it. And so I want you to zoom back out and say, look, can I operate in a different way where I'm more loving and more honest about what it is that I'm feeling? And so I think that's where a conversation comes in, like, you know what, I care about you so much that this situation actually is hurtful to me. That's a you being able to communicate in love and honest way, versus saying, you're never going to be what I want you to be, right? Like those two different concepts maybe come from the same place, but only one of them is going to be effective. And so we need to get to a place where we can be able to communicate with love and the honest truth about what's going on for you. The third idea is that we're not in our relationships, we're not using our humility and selflessness. A lot of times we're so full of pride, and that pride idea makes you focus a lot on what's happening to you, how you're losing, what your partner needs to do to get better. It makes you focus on less about how you can grow your scenario and more about how you're going to criticize your scenario. And so if you can flip it around and say, look, I really want to see how I can serve my partner as much as possible. What do I have to do to grow the idea of my ability to serve my partner? And if that becomes your focus, you'll see you being able to practice humility and selflessness a lot more, because overall there's going to be a lot of mistakes. There's going to be a lot of times where you're going to have to forgive your partner, or you're going to have to be a little bit more humble, or you're going to have to make sure that you stay away from being resentful. And the only way to do that is if you can replace your idea that, man, there's something that happened to me or something that my partner is doing that affects us, you're gonna have to replace that idea with, look, we're both doing the best, and I just need to keep pursuing how to serve my partner so that they can be in a better place. The last one that I want to give you guys is the idea that your focus is often off. And so if your focus can be more on, and this kind of runs over one of ours a little bit, one of our other ones a little bit, but the idea of love and patience. So if your focus is more on the idea, look, I'm going to stick this situation out. I'm going to make sure that we are getting better. I'm going to make sure that love is the only operation mode that we have. If you can focus on that, um, you demonstrate a certain understanding that's really important. So at first, and you might not ever tell me that this is true, and you might not even believe that it's true, but I'll tell you. But the reason that you go to resentment is because there's been hurtful things that happened to you that you didn't process, or that were not okay, and you're still not okay with. And you haven't been able to express it fully. And your body's way of being able to punish and create a different scenario is to build resentment so that all of your interaction does the punishment. I mean, what happens when somebody is resentful? They're cold, they're disconnected, they remove some important things that we need to happen in connection. So by accident, sometimes on purpose, we develop that sense of resentment to try to change other people, to try to get them to do the thing that we want them to do. And if you can have a different way of being in that relationship that says, actually, I'm going to use love as my change agent, and I'm going to be patient and allow it to grow, because love is not one of those microwave type ideas. Resentment might be, something where someone says, okay, but it does, the last of that and the longevity of those scenarios, not very good, right? But if you're able to plant seeds of love and be patient and allow yourself to work on continuing to love over and over again, then that recipe is a good replacement for resentment and a good success pattern for your relationship. Okay. So you guys got 4 things from me that I think are going to be really helpful for you replacing some of that resentment that you have. And I think I'm scratching the surface of this just because of the length of this video, but I still think it's going to be super useful. Make sure you're forgiving quickly and fully. Make sure you're communicating in a way that's loving and honest. Um, Practice humility and selflessness, and then finally focus on love and patience. And the more that you put those 4 things together and start stirring them up and mixing them and handing them out, you'll see there's going to be goodness in your relationship. You can replace that resentment. Next thing you know, you guys are going to be feeling good together. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Take care.